At some point, without making a promise to yourself, you simply stop reaching. Not dramatically, not defiantly. You just don't lean forward anymore. Your heart is still there. Your sensitivity hasn't disappeared, but the urgency is gone. And that single internal shift does something profound to him. Because for a long time, your emotional presence was predictable. You were the one who checked in, the one who felt first, reacted first, worried first. Your care filled the space before silence ever had a chance to exist. And slowly, without cruelty or intention, that care became something he relied on. Not love, regulation. Not connection, control. Carl Jung wrote that the psyche clings to what stabilizes it, even if that stability is unconscious. Your attention stabilized his inner world. Your concern softened his uncertainty. Your emotional availability made the relationship feel safe without requiring him to grow. Until one day, it didn't. When you stop caring in the way you used to, you don't remove love. You remove certainty. You stop reacting instantly. You stop filling pauses with explanations. You stop rescuing the connection from discomfort. And that's when his mind changes. Because the moment your emotional energy is no longer guaranteed, his nervous system wakes up. He feels the absence not as loss, but as threat, a disruption in the invisible balance that once worked in his favor. You see, control is rarely conscious. It's built from patterns, from knowing that you'll respond, that you'll adjust, that you'll stay emotionally reachable no matter what. Your detachment breaks that pattern. And when a pattern breaks, the mind spirals inward. He starts paying attention again. He wonders where your energy went. He senses that something essential has shifted, even if he can't name it. Jung would say this is where the shadow emerges. Because when your care withdraws, he is forced to confront the part of himself that depended on it. This is not manipulation. This is not strategy. This is psychological gravity. When you stop caring in the old way, you don't push him away. You remove the illusion of control. And that is the moment attraction begins to rewire itself, quietly, deeply, and irreversibly. What happens next is subtle, but relentless. When you stop caring in the old way, his mind doesn't relax, it activates. Because the emotional feedback loop he depended on has gone silent. Before, your reactions guided him. If he pulled away, you leaned in. If he went quiet, you searched for meaning. If he gave less, you compensated with more. That dynamic created an invisible hierarchy. He reacted, you adjusted. He withdrew, you repaired. And now, suddenly, that structure collapses. You don't chase the silence. You don't fill the gaps. You don't demand reassurance. And this is where his internal tension begins. Carl Jung believed that when an external regulator disappears, the psyche is forced to regulate itself. Your emotional detachment removes the external stabilizer he unconsciously relied on. So his mind starts doing something uncomfortable. It turns inward. He begins asking questions he never had to ask before. Why doesn't she react anymore? Why does her distance feel heavier than her closeness ever did? What if I misjudged how much she needed me? This isn't about love yet. It's about loss of position. Because when you cared more, he stood at the center. Your energy orbited him. Your emotional labor kept the connection alive. Now your energy has returned to you. And psychologically, that does something dangerous to control. It creates uncertainty. The human mind is wired to fix uncertainty. And when it can't, it fixates. He starts noticing details he once ignored. Your tone, your timing, your absence. Not because you changed who you are, but because he lost access to who you were for him. Jung would say that attraction intensifies when projection is threatened. When he could rely on your emotional availability, he didn't need to imagine you. Now he does. Your detachment forces him to confront a possibility he avoided before, that you are not guaranteed. And that realization rewires how he perceives you. You are no longer an emotional constant. You are a variable, and variables demand attention. Silence is not empty. Silence is interpretive. When you stop caring the way you used to, you don't leave a void. You create a question. And the mind cannot tolerate unanswered questions for long. Before, everything about you was readable. Your emotions were accessible. Your intentions were clear. Your care translated itself into effort, patience, explanation. That clarity made him comfortable, but comfort dulls awareness. Now your silence does something unfamiliar. It refuses to explain itself. You don't announce distance. You don't justify change. You simply are different. And this is where his internal dialogue intensifies. Because the ego needs orientation. It needs to know where it stands. When it doesn't, it starts scanning for threat. He begins replaying moments, searching for signs, measuring his words against your new calm. Not because he suddenly became emotionally mature, but because he lost emotional leverage. Carl Jung believed that when projection collapses, fascination begins. When you no longer mirror his expectations, his psyche has to work harder to locate you. Your detachment removes the emotional shortcuts he once relied on. He can no longer predict your reactions. He can no longer control the tempo of closeness and distance. And unpredictability awakens desire. This is why your calm feels unsettling to him. It's not indifference. It's autonomy. You are no longer emotionally adjustable. You don't bend to silence. You don't chase reassurance. You don't fill space to keep connection alive. And that forces him into a position he avoided before. Effort without guarantee. His mind starts assigning value retroactively. He begins to realize what your emotional presence actually did for him. How much regulation, comfort, validation it provided. But now, that access is gone. And absence has weight. This is the moment attraction begins to shift direction. From you reaching toward him, to him orienting toward you. There is a moment when his ego realizes something it cannot negotiate with. You are no longer emotionally anchored to his behavior. Before, his actions had immediate consequences. Distance made you question. Silence made you anxious. Inconsistency pulled you closer. Your care acted like gravity, always pulling the dynamic back toward him. Now that gravity is gone, and the ego panics when it loses its center, because ego does not crave love first. It craves relevance. When you stop caring the way you used to, he can no longer measure his importance through your reactions. Your calm becomes unreadable. Your restraint becomes unsettling. He starts testing the connection. Subtle messages, delayed responses, small provocations meant to restore the old rhythm. Not because he suddenly knows what he wants, but because he wants to feel felt again. Carl Jung believed that the ego resists any force that threatens its self-image, and your detachment threatens his. It suggests something dangerous, that your world no longer revolves around him. This is where attraction transforms. You are no longer seeking connection. You are selecting it, and selection implies power. His mind begins to reinterpret the past. Moments he dismissed gain weight. Your patience gains value. Your emotional labor becomes visible, too late, but vividly. Because when something is freely given, the ego undervalues it. When it must be earned, it becomes desirable. Your detachment doesn't punish him. It exposes him. It shows him how much he took for granted, and how little control he actually had. And that realization creates tension. Tension fuels focus. Focus fuels attraction. This is where the shift becomes visible. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. When you stop caring the way you once did, his behavior no longer sets the tone. Your absence does. He begins to move differently. He responds faster. He checks in without a reason. He becomes more attentive, more present, more cautious with his words. Not because you demanded change, but because your detachment removed his comfort. You see, when you cared deeply, he had space to delay, to drift, to give half effort. Your emotional consistency absorbed the consequences. Now, consequences return to him. Carl Jung spoke about the moment when the unconscious realizes it can no longer rely on an external structure. That moment forces either growth or withdrawal. And that is exactly what your detachment creates. A crossroads. He can no longer lean back while you hold the emotional weight. If he wants connection, he must participate. This is why some men suddenly step up when a woman emotionally steps back. It's not awakening. It's necessity. Your calm sends a clear message without words. I will not regulate this for you anymore. And his nervous system feels it. He senses that the connection now requires intention. That access to you is no longer automatic. That your emotional availability is no longer unconditional. This is where control fully collapses. Because control depends on effort and balance. And you've removed yourself from that imbalance. Some men respond by rising. They show consistency. They offer presence. They become clearer, steadier, more grounded. Others retreat. They disappear. They resist the discomfort of having to grow. And both outcomes reveal the truth. Your detachment doesn't change him. It reveals him. You are no longer negotiating your worth through patience. You are no longer proving value through endurance. You simply exist. Whole, centered, unchasing. And that is what permanently rewires attraction. At a certain point, you realize something quietly radical. You are no longer responding. You are choosing. And this internal shift changes the entire architecture of the connection. Before, your emotional world was reactive. His moods shaped your state. His distance set your anxiety in motion. His attention determined your calm. Now, your center has moved back into you. Carl Jung believed that individuation begins the moment a person stops living from unconscious adaptation and starts living from inner alignment. And this is exactly what emotional detachment does. It returns authority to the self. You are no longer scanning him for cues. You are no longer waiting for permission to feel at ease. You are no longer adjusting your depth to match his capacity. And his mind feels this immediately. Because attraction is not created by availability. It is created by orientation. You become the reference point again, not by pulling away aggressively, not by pretending indifference, but by no longer abandoning yourself to maintain connection. Your energy stabilizes. Your presence becomes grounded. Your attention is no longer for sale. And this forces a psychological reversal. He starts orienting toward you. He wonders where your emotional gravity went, why your silence feels heavier than your words ever did, why he suddenly feels the need to prove, to show up, to reestablish relevance. This is not about punishment. This is about polarity. When you stopped caring compulsively, you didn't withdraw love. You withdrew dependency. And dependency was the hidden source of his control. Now, the dynamic has no center outside of you. You are no longer the emotional responder. You are the emotional standard. And standards do not chase. They filter. This is why detachment doesn't harden you. It clarifies you. It makes your presence intentional, your absence meaningful, your yes valuable. What changes most is not him. It's you. When you stop caring in the old way, you begin to feel something unfamiliar. Space. Space in your chest. Space in your thoughts. Space where anxiety used to live. You no longer wake up wondering what he meant. You no longer replay conversations searching for hidden signals. You no longer need certainty to feel steady. And this is where your power truly returns. Because the deepest shift of emotional detachment is not strategic. It's existential. You stop living inside the relationship. You start living alongside it. Carl Jung wrote that when a woman withdraws unconscious projection, she retrieves parts of herself that were scattered in the other. That is exactly what you are doing now. Every time you cared excessively, you gave away pieces of your focus. Every time you over-explained, you leaked energy. Every time you waited, you postponed your own presence. Now those pieces come back. You notice how calm feels different, how silence no longer scares you, how your worth feels less negotiable. And paradoxically, this is when he feels you the most. Not because you are louder, but because you are no longer trying to be understood. Your detachment makes you emotionally opaque, and opacity invites depth. He can't read you the way he used to. He can't predict your reactions. He can't anchor himself in your availability. And this forces him to relate to you as a whole person, not a resource. You no longer exist to soothe his uncertainty. You no longer exist to absorb inconsistency. You exist with yourself. This is why emotional detachment is not rejection. It is self-return. And once you return to yourself, you become impossible to manipulate and impossible to forget. When he feels control slipping, he doesn't always let go gracefully. He tests, not openly, not honestly, but instinctively. He may resurface with familiarity, old jokes, casual messages, a tone designed to pull you back into the rhythm where you once lived. This is not connection. It's calibration. He wants to see if you're still emotionally reachable, if your detachment was temporary, if the door is still unlocked. And here is where the transformation becomes irreversible. You don't react the way you used to. You don't rush to explain the change. You don't overinvest in re-establishing closeness. You don't punish, but you don't chase either. Your response, or lack of urgency, sends a signal far louder than confrontation ever could. Because emotional games only work when someone agrees to play. Carl Jung believed that the shadow becomes most visible when its usual strategies stop working, and his attempts to regain control reveal exactly what the connection was built on before. If it was built on access to your emotional labor, he feels the loss immediately. If it was built on imbalance, he becomes restless. If it was built on your availability, he feels destabilized. And you feel steady. That's the difference now. His confusion no longer infects you. His inconsistency no longer pulls you off center. His behavior becomes information, not a trigger. This is the moment you realize you are no longer inside the dynamic. You are observing it. You see clearly who shows up when effort is required. You see who withdraws when control is gone. You see who can meet you without leverage. And clarity is freedom. Because now, even if he tries to pull you back into the old emotional contract, you don't sign it. You've outgrown the need to be chosen by someone who only wanted access. What emerges now is not detachment from love, but detachment from illusion. You no longer confuse intensity with depth. You no longer mistake attention for commitment. You no longer feel pulled to earn what should be offered freely. And this changes the way everything lands in you. When he shows interest, you feel it, but you don't cling. When he pulls away, you notice, but you don't collapse. When he hesitates, you don't fill the space with hope, because hope no longer replaces evidence. This is the quiet maturity emotional detachment gives you. You stop asking, does he care? And start asking, does this feel aligned with who I am now? That question rewires your nervous system. Your body no longer reacts with urgency. Your heart no longer races to secure connection. Your intuition becomes louder than your fear. And this is why his behavior either stabilizes or disappears completely. Men who relied on control feel exposed here. They sense they can no longer provoke emotion to feel powerful. They sense they can no longer withdraw to be chased. And instead of fighting, you let reality speak. You don't close your heart. You open your eyes. You begin to understand that caring less was never about him. It was about ending self-abandonment. And once self-abandonment ends, manipulation has nowhere to land. You don't need to prove boundaries. Your presence is the boundary. Your calm communicates more than confrontation ever could. Your discernment replaces hope. Your self-respect replaces waiting. And suddenly, relationships feel lighter. Because you're no longer trying to be chosen. You're choosing. What you thought was stopping caring was never emotional loss. It was emotional return. You didn't become distant. You became whole. You didn't shut down. You stopped leaking yourself into places that could not hold you. And this is the part most people never understand. When you stop caring from exhaustion, you harden. But when you stop caring from clarity, you ascend. Carl Jung said that the most terrifying thing for the ego is not abandonment, but the loss of unconscious influence. And that is exactly what happens here. You no longer revolve around someone else's capacity. You no longer wait for behavior to define your worth. You no longer negotiate with uncertainty. You exist. And existence, grounded, self-contained, sovereign, is irresistibly powerful. Some men will feel this shift and grow. Others will feel it and fade. And for the first time, neither outcome destabilizes you. Because you are no longer trying to secure love. You are aligned with it. You've learned something irreversible now. That attraction rooted in control was never attraction. It was dependency. And dependency dissolves the moment you choose yourself. So if his mind changed when you stopped caring, it's not because you became less. It's because you finally stopped being available for less. And from this place forward, every connection will feel different, calmer, cleaner, more honest. Because you are no longer offering your heart as proof of worth. You are offering it as a choice. And that choice belongs to you.